Colony 5, 5 years from Earth. Year 4067. Shuttle on radar, identify yourselves. They listened and there was no response. We are not hostile, but shall defend ourselves if you approach any further. Identify yourselves. The shuttle kept coming closer and there was still no answer. This is your last warning before we open fire. The radio remained silent. Fire, the oldest male said. The missiles streaked out, but they blew up upon the vessel's shields. He stood up. Next level, fire. This should have breached the shields, but it did not. Attack, he ordered, and they began to shoot, but a tracker beam shot from the outsider vessel, and their ship was frozen. Colony 5 had the best technology, and all of it stopped working. Men in robotic exosuits began to manifest upon the ship. They rushed off and began to arm themselves for the invasion. They had laser traps all over the ship. The lasers hit the suits and shields of the intruders, but all shot off. Their colony army was shocked at this. When the robot men approached the doors, most of them just opened. Some of them only took a minute. They either knew the code or had a device that had opened it. Then the robotic men showed their guns. Everyone on Colony 5 was either really smart or very well trained. That is what made this colony so different and so strong, except for today. Colony 5 had weapons that no one else had, but the newcomers' weapons were so big and so powerful that it made their weapons look like baby guns. Each had another object, too, that produced sound. It not only hurt them, it knocked them backwards, with such force that it crippled them upon their landing. One of the 6 that was thrown backwards stood up and shot his laser guns at him, but it only bounced off of his shield and blew a big hole in the ship compartments. Surround him, A4 Section 5, a soldier thought into his telepathic helmet. The soldiers heard him and planned their move. The intruder was attacked suddenly from all angles. It was overloading his shield. A 5th soldier held out a device that stole the power out of his shield. He fired a shot from his gun and blew the man that zapped him into bits and pieces. He was again attacked from all angles, and luckily one of them got the gun away from him. Whatever he held in his other, he held up. The soldier picked up the gun and his head exploded. He fell down in a pile. Earplugs and helmets now, Oxlar weapon, he thought into his helmet. They quickly armed. One soldier touched his neck, and the helmet surrounded his head, and earplugs came up and inserted. He stayed still, looking at the bloody pieces of his brother upon the wall and floor. He heaved with sadness and anger. He ran off to get 2 things. He quickly grabbed every weapon they had and got into an exosuit as well. He opened several passages he wasn't supposed to, and then he opened something special that he definitely was not supposed to open, but he did, and he did it for his dead brother. He came back out to fight. He saw the enemies. There were 5 total. His helmet had a flip shade, and every person in the ship's life readings were red and not moving, except for his and them. He shot at them, and they shot back, but now his shield was stronger than theirs, and he opened fire. They shot back, but he raised his hand, and one of their weapons was stuck straight into his hand. It should have been easy, but it wasn't. He couldn't get it to fire. The others charged at the same time, and he wasn't sure his shield would take it. He charged up the other weapon. It was a large, perfectly cut green-blue diamond. It stood upon a long silver staff and had eyes and small weapons all around the top of it. He held it out to his left and cut in between 9 o'clock, straight in a line to 3 o'clock. The robots and whatever lived inside of them were cut straight in half. There were sparks, blood, and metal that all just fell into a pile. He looked over them with no expression. "Seed bank breached," the computer said. "Shit!" He turned around and he went the other direction. A fake computer voice sounded again. "Seed bank breached." He flipped his other lens over his other eye and saw the other robot man. He touched a button that cloaked him. He could not lose this fight. This fight was his last hope and their colony's last star. He came into the door and he could see him. He had opened and destroyed countless amounts of eggs and seed, all of their tribe's DNA. He blasted him and he shook. He turned around and shot but missed. He continued to break and blow up the vials and plates. The robot man threw something small and not with much force, and it turned around. It was a dart. He busted and burned more discs and vials. The heat dart sought him out, even through cloaking and metal. It struck the invisible metal, and the cloak and the shield were disarmed. The man from Colony 5 used the wand to cut the robot in half. He flipped his visor down again, and everyone's life reading had turned red, even the invaders. There were only 2 life readings left on board, and one was hidden. So all the life readings are red, but they're still, other than him, there's one more person on the ship. Beep, beep, beep. The handsome man slowly opened his eyes, but it was very difficult. They hurt and felt like his eyelids weighed a ton. Beep, beep, beep. Light flashed. He raised his hands to block his eyes. His arms weighed a ton as well. He closed his eyes again and almost fell back to sleep. The bed vibrated gently. He was still too out of it. A needle came out and injected him. It shocked him and he gasped and sat up suddenly. There were lights and sound going on all around him. The sound hurt and the lights hurt just as much. He woke up suddenly, not knowing where he was or when he was, and everything around him hurt his senses. He, above the rest, had very sensitive senses. A screen moved by him and quieted the sounds. Greetings, Cole. You are being awakened out of suspended animation. It is the year 4067. Your wife Lily is missing. You have 12 children. They are all dead, except for Cameron. It is January 26th, 4067. The alarms had been dimmed for your sensitivities. The screen changed to a map of human sensor locators. They were all red and still. It is 4067. Everyone is dead. It is 4067. Everyone is dead. It read off 11 of his children, even his new baby boy. He hung his head. He looked down and wasn't smiling. Seed bank has been destroyed. He got up and slowly moved. He could barely walk. He grabbed his walker from beside the chamber, yet he fell fast and had to drag his worthless legs around the corner. He started finding them. He found bits of them, some with large holes, some with open and frozen lifeless eyes, some of them blown to bits. He was helpless and he couldn't even walk. He could barely see. He cried. Locate the wand thingy. Missing. He hung his head again in devastation. He sobbed. He looked up suddenly. Computer, where is Cameron? Missing. Katama, the king of the Monarchy, was outside on a warm summer night. He was in the forest having a nice, relaxing time by a fire. Then he saw a group of asteroids coming down upon his planet. He quickly retreated underground. Sir, emergency. Code red. No shit. We thought they were asteroids, but they're not. What is it then? Space shuttles. Some are crashing, some are landing, some are falling down so fast they burn up in the atmosphere. Understood. Is it his fault? Katama asked, referring to Zale. We don't know. I hate him. I wish he would leave now. Why? I don't like him. I don't want him here. You're the ruler. Why don't you kick him out of here then? You have every right to. On Shay. But she can't do anything, and she's not a threat to Monarchy. She's a Sotnon, though, and could make us all powerless, cause us a lot of harm. But Anshe is kind. She would never wish destruction on anyone of any kind. She might if I don't keep him here. Koa, the second in command, never thought about that. She must care a lot about him to hide him here. Is there something you're not telling us? Koa asked lightly. And there was forever a bond between them that would never be broken. They had their own code. Katama glanced over slightly and smirked. He looked at the ground briefly and back up to him. I want her to come back, that's all. You're a lying fool. At least I'm the only fool that has the wills and balls enough to claim her. Katama need not worry, for he knew and trusted his second mate. What should we do? Stop them. The remaining Manaki upon land saw this, and they all crowded together to push them back into space. The more that gathered to push, the stronger they became as a team. Some went back up and just floated back down. One came back and fired missiles at them, which they tried to stop, but didn't always succeed, and some Manaki were killed. The Manaki started to retreat. But when they stopped fighting, more things came crashing down. His group retreated underground. They were locked in, hoping that what were left of them were safe. What is this, some kind of invasion? Those that didn't die upon their shuttle's crash or by the missiles came down upon the Manaki surface, came out of their ships and began running upon land. Some were so panicked they only ran in circles. Some survivors even attacked each other. Others just ran for shelter. The Manaki underground watched this all on their monitors. They sent a periscope above ground along with a speaker and a microphone, a new age kind of drive-in, so to speak. What is it? The Manaki asked. The other saw the screen come up. He pressed his hands against the monitor, even though that's not where the camera really was. Help us. Those that aren't attacking us are dying and falling. Those that are landing are killing each other, and those that aren't doing that just need protection. Against what? The alarms got Zale's attention, so he came to Katama, and he looked around at all the screens to absorb as much information as he could without saying anything. Katama slowly looked at the screens as well. The Satnan won't hurt anyone. I'm telling you, she's not going to hurt anyone. Yes, sir. The ground of the Manaki shook violently. They saw a few of their own, which had been locked out on accident. Some died and others hid very well, for they knew Manaki and the woods surrounding the village. Sometimes they redirected the blasts, pieces, bombs, and threw them back at the invaders. Another periscope came out to communicate with a different group of invaders. It's the Satso! It's the Satso! He screamed, as blasts pounded all around him and eventually got him as well. Another periscope came up. It was a Gonza. He was holding a handheld phone. He was hurt and dragging himself as he bled from his face. He didn't speak, but he talked to all of their minds at the same time. The black hole, he said. The black hole. A missile strike blasted next to him, and his large eyes stared at them on the monitor, and his bloody hand slowly streaked down the screen as his lifeless body slid to the ground. They looked at each other in horror. Whatever it was bad news, and the Gonza had come and could not stop it. Zale was scared to death, but you could never see it. He quickly looked down at his plastic Superman watch. It wasn't a tech watch. It wasn't a seeing tear. It wasn't a space-age gadget. It was just a cheap plastic piece of shit he stole from Anshe when they were both in the academy. He glanced back up at the screens. He pointed his finger at the newly landed ship. Satso, Zale said, and Katama swiftly paid attention. They looked at the new being who was causing chaos around him. He moved ever closer to the hidden underground entrances. Zale pulled out a device, and a holographic mask took over his face, and now he blended in with the Manaki. Anshe? Katama asked, and the newcomer shook his head. Anshe wouldn't hurt anyone. I told you that. I'm going to fight him. He pointed upwards. Zale was sent to the surface to fight for them, and Katama didn't mind at all. He was relieved, in fact, but not for the right reasons.